intro.
What's up, buds?
And action.
Welcome to the new episode of the Earbuds Podcast, the podcast where two friends talk about one album for usually one episode, but it's going to be 2 episodes this time because shit is real on this record. I am one half of the Earbuds Podcast. My name is Lucas, Mr.Morale, Inderkovs, and I am here with my buddy, my significant other, my bestie. What's your name?
Get the bitch down me like, huh.
Like, huh, Brett, huh, Hanrahan.
It's actually, pushing bitches off me like, huh, is the full name.
Yeah, I know what it is. I said it the way you told me to say it before we started recording.
Well, I, changed my mind, and if you don't say it the full name, then I'm not gonna respond.
Okay, Brett, keep push these bitches off like, huh. Okay, see? Is that good enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
Hanrahan. We are here to talk about technically the second half, the second disc of a double album by Mr. Kendrick Lamar, Mr.Morale, and the Big Steppers. If you haven't watched our first episode where we talk about the first 9 tracks of this record, click on the link wherever, and you'll be able to watch that episode. But for now, we're going to talk about the last 9 tracks on this record, starting with the song Count Me Out.
Yeah. On the last episode, Lucas had not listened to this half. I listened to the whole thing a couple times. But coming into this half, Lucas, I don't think there was anything you didn't expect. I don't think there were any surprises.
No, there were definitely no surprises. But I'll start right off the bat by saying I liked the second half of this record much more.
Okay, and I liked the first half a little better, though. It's kind of, I try to look into it a little more, the whole mirror theory where like the first track and last track correlate, and honestly the album's kind of off the wall anyway, so comparing 2 halves is like kind of I don't know, just like
I think it might be valid, dude, because let's be honest, this did not need to be a double album. In terms of runtime, if you're just talking about runtime, it's 73 minutes long or something. Like, that fits on one disc. Kendrick wanted this to be a double album because I think as a storyteller and as just a piece of art that this record is, I think it did need to be a 2-parter, to be honest. I think the second half continues the story in a way where the first half is kind of confronting a lot of these issues that he's been dealing with and all the stuff that he's been going through for the last 5 some odd years or whatever. In the second half, it kind of seems like he's growing a little bit and starting maybe correcting his ways or finding different ways to deal with trauma and deal with all the emotions that he's been dealing with in the first half. So as much as it didn't need to be one technically, it didn't need to be a double album technically, I think it benefited really well from kind of separating these 2 halves and understanding that it might be telling 2 different stories a little bit.
Unless, this is a theory that no one's talked about, this is the first half of the double album.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
Just because I want to.
Oh, fuck. So you're just playing, you're just playing devil's advocate. Okay. What if Kendrick didn't write any of this?
It was all written
his
by...
ex-girlfriend wrote it.
Right. It was all Whitney. And his kids did all the vocals.
I would love to see who this Whitney is. Yeah. Man. Dude. Going through the second half of the record, there was a lot fewer surprises, I would say, in some of the decisions that he made. Like, the United in Grief and Worldwide Steppers and some of the songs on the first half. What was the one where him and his girlfriend are just having a full-on fight?
Yeah, the whole, like, domestic dispute track, We Cry Together.
Yeah, We Cry Together. Yeah, those were very surprising, artistic, almost like a stage play performance type of song. And I think the second half is a lot more straightforward.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is just as personal and heavy,
if not more so,
than the first half.
Yeah,
I think I liked the 2-parter, and honestly, like, just to break it down in terms of why I liked the second half, these 9 songs more than the first, a lot of it has to do with the music that I liked a lot more on this half.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's interesting because I thought the music on the first half was a little more interesting to me.
Which it would be. The second half is a little more subdued.
It's a little more...
a little quieter.
Just kind of like... I don't want to say traditional because it's still like... They're still great beats and they have thought put into them and stuff, but...
Yes. I mean, think about the music on Crown.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, God, that music was so tense for me, and it just made me feel like something horrible was about to happen.
Right, yeah. I liked how kind of minimal it was, and you know, it's kind of rising a little bit. It's very personal. I think it's good that he's like kind of finally getting off this God complex, which is a pervading theme on this record, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, he literally has an interlude and a song called Savior, where he struggles with that complex of being a representative of the black community, feeling like he needs to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. And I love the message on the second half of the record, just the message of growth and challenging yourself and not just believing what you've always believed, and like I said, challenging yourself to learn and grow and become someone who you weren't before. Let's say even on the smallest of terms, becoming someone who you weren't before you started listening to this album.
Sure.
Like if it could do that for people, songs like Crown, I think I love the message on Crown. I think like not being able to please everyone is just something that a lot of people have to deal with, and.
Yeah.
Being afraid to be like 100% honest with the people that you love most, being open with the people who are closest to you. I think that's a really powerful message. And the part where he says, you say no, like, and so I think he says like, you say no and all you've done gives them amnesia. Where it's like, the moment I say no, everything that I've done for you at this point, everything I've said yes to and done for you, all of a sudden you have amnesia and you forgot all that shit. And I've known people like that, and it's fucking maddening. I've been in relationships with people like that, and I totally felt that line in a very personal way.
Right.
And I think it's a message that a lot of people need to be reminded of, that you really can't please everyone. And if there's someone who, the moment that you say no or the moment that you push back on something that they want you to do, if that one moment made them forget about everything that you've done for them up until that point, then they don't deserve what you've done for them. So that kind of teaches you to stop going out of your way and doing shit for people and kind of look out for number one a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, and it's also a great, kind of look into being famous, I guess, like an icon that fans do,
right?
Kind of change at the flip of a coin or I don't remember the saying, but like it's so the frailty of being someone who's highly regarded like this, especially someone like Kendrick Lamar, who's kind of in a legendary status right now,
right? And
how the higher up the peak you are, the more unstable you get, and how it's easier to fall back down, and so Kendrick's always great at giving these very personal themes and topics, but also can be interpreted and said for the everyday person,
yeah definitely. And I mean, you look at songs like Auntie Diaries, where, I mean, what a heavy track that is. And I think it's, a lot of it is commendable. I think what's really cool about Kendrick is how human he allows himself to be, and how flawed he allows himself to be, and how honest he is about how flawed he is as a human. Yeah. No one's perfect, right?
Right.
And I love Auntie Diaries for the theme of growth that I feel like the second half of this album has. And I mean, as much as I wish he didn't use the F-bombs that he uses in the song to really get across, basically by F-bombs I mean like the worst possible word that you could call a gay person. As much as I wish he didn't use that language in the song to get his point across, I understood why he did. And, like, what's the word for it? The kind of faux pas, and it's not really a faux pas. It's much more dense and deeper and emotional than that. But calling people by their dead name, I think, like, something that he did in Auntie Diaries.
Yeah, I can't. There's no way he used their actual name, right?
Who knows, man? He's so fucking honest and open and real. Like, maybe he used their actual name. You know?
I mean, I just assumed...
He's using Whitney's name like fucking Willie. He's just throwing that shit out like fucking candy out of a piñata.
Yeah, I guess so.
On this record. But
it's so crazy to me how, like, he does kind of talk about, like, stepping back from fame in the public eye and stuff and focusing on himself. Yet he's literally putting his children and his wife on the album cover. He's naming people.
Right.
Like,
right.
Why are you doxing people like this?
Yeah, it is a form of doxing. That's a really good way to put it. And I think that's a really good way to categorize what it means to someone who has gone through a transition, what it means to them to use their, what they call a dead name, something that you don't call yourself anymore because that person never was me, right? Quote unquote.
Sure, yeah.
But I think doxing is a really easy way for people to understand that language, and I think that's a really good way to put it. But I don't like that he used those words or uses those names, but I think just like a lot of people who are learning about trans and non-binary and gender and sexual fluidity, like Kendrick is just learning. He's just trying to learn. He's trying to be better. He's trying to understand, and I think that's commendable.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually really want to learn about this stuff, you are gonna make mistakes and you're gonna say wrong things, and I don't. It seems like,
but if it's not from a place of hate and it's from a place of curiosity and wanting to learn, I think that's where people need to be more open about those types of questions and be more forgiving of those mistakes. You know, I don't know if Kendrick knew he was making a quote unquote mistake by naming the dead name. You know?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, yeah, I don't know. It's just like a lot of, when you're learning about this stuff, you don't really know how important certain things are. I remember when I was first learning about, like, LGBT stuff, my friend was talking about a trans person, and I asked, like, oh, what was their first name? You know,
dude,
like,
I've asked you that same question about one of your friends.
Yeah, and I was like,
I had no idea that I was out of line or inappropriate.
Yeah, because
I had no idea.
We're just learning, and when you think about it, when you stop and think about it, why do I want to know that name? There's no reason I need to know that name. It's just
morbid curiosity.
Yeah, either that or just like because there's no reason you need to know this person's dead name, because you're not going to be calling them that, and they don't want that name in the back of your head anyway.
It's kind of on a different level. Like, so my brother-in-law just got COVID. He was in New Orleans for Memorial Day. Oh. What the fuck do you expect? Being in New Orleans on Memorial Day, you're going to come back with COVID probably, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'd say for certain.
For certain, almost fucking certain. And, I thought it was kind of funny that my sister was trying to, like, play detective on when he actually caught it and where he could have caught it and all that stuff. And I told her, I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, he has COVID. He got it. Like, that's just deal with the present instead of trying to, like, play detective and look into where it might have happened. But that was something that for the last 2-3 years, the first question I have when someone tells me that they have COVID was, usually the first question is, how do you feel? Oh, holy shit, are you doing okay? Yeah. And the second is, where'd you get it, dude? Where do you think you fucking got it? Because it's just curiosity. It's just that kind of morbid, it's almost like gossip at that point, where it's like if you bring up someone's dead name or you ask someone's what their dead name was, it's kind of gossip. It's kind of like you're just prying a little bit, you know? And so it's on a different level, but it's similar in that way. But, I think there's just, to me, it's just so crazy how personal and real Kendrick can be while also telling a story, and it all makes sense, and he's somehow able to rhyme while still telling this really crystal clear story and have a very clear message on why he's telling us this stuff. And I just think it's like, I don't know who else is at that level of storytelling other than maybe someone like Atmosphere or, I don't even know who else.
Like Atmosphere, common, I guess.
Common, but, right.
You know, like intellectual rappers or whatever. But
Sure.
it seems like, you know, something special that Kendrick has is that it doesn't. I don't think he wants to be like called like an intellectual rapper or like what is it called, just like intelligent rap or
like a woke rap, intelligent rap.
Like,
I mean, you put people in there like Mos Def or Talib Kweli or The Roots, people Common, like you said. I mean, it's people who aren't they can't fall within like that ignorant rap umbrella.
But you know, like he doesn't. That's not a title he would be proud to have, and just the fact that he can get across these big concepts and focus his thoughts into something so approachable, if a little like hard to take in, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, that's why he's the GOAT, man.
I mean, I'm you know, like we were saying on the first half of this record where I had to give it an 8.0 just based off of artistry alone. But I had to find the middle ground between my respect for his artistry and my awe for his artistry and how much I truly enjoyed what I had listened to. I had to find that middle ground a little bit. That's where the 8.0 came in. But this second half of this record, I feel like the artistry is on a more accessible level, but it doesn't make it any less impressive. And honestly, I feel like the word gets thrown around a little bit too much, but genius.
I don't think it's even controversial to call him a genius at this point.
Yeah, at this point, right? Like, who's gonna fucking argue with us that Kendrick is a genius?
Though I would, you know, and like, this might not be a masterpiece record. It might not even be.
I think it is going to be to a lot of people. I think this is going to be a masterpiece to a lot of people.
Maybe so. But it's kind of, it's less focused, I guess I'd say, than past records. It's not exactly a concept album like the last records, but that kind of makes it a little more human. It's kind of like confused and kind of all over the place, scattered with these different beats, kind of, you know, beats that you could maybe ascertain to a specific past record.
Right. I mean, I think throughout this whole record, like, Kendrick is basically chopping up, you know, his idea of what it means to be a savior to people. And I think that's kind of a through line throughout the whole record. I think, like, obviously he had to go through a lot of growth in the last 5 years through therapy and through other means to better himself and get into a good place mentally. And I think obviously his ongoing therapy is mentioned also throughout the whole album. Yeah. And I love on the last song, I think it's the last song, Mirror, where he says something like you won't grow waiting on me. Like, if you're waiting for Kendrick Lamar to tell you how to think about something instead of you trying to figure it out on your own, you're not going to grow. Like, you can't grow waiting for someone to tell you. You can't learn just by waiting to be told what you're supposed to think, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely help, but those final decisions and the things that shape you as a person are ultimately your decision.
You have to seek that growth, right? And I think it obviously helps a lot to talk to people and help you find how you feel about things if you can't figure it out on your own. But man, waiting on, I remember saying to you in one of our past episodes that I couldn't wait for this album to come out because I wanted to hear what Kendrick had to say about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Because
I wanted to know his perspective, because it might help me figure out how I'm supposed to feel about that. But it is true. It's like, you're not going to grow waiting on someone to tell you what to do. And I think growth is just it didn't really hit me until listening to the second half of the record that growth is the biggest theme on this album. And I think especially the closer really, really speaks on his personal growth, and he kind of peppers in throughout. Auntie Diaries, Crown, where he talks about being the king to people, and how do I deal with that. I think like stuff like the savior song, again, it's just like, I'm not your savior. Like, I love that he says like LeBron isn't your savior because whatever, Future isn't your savior because he told you that you needed a fucking accountant or whatever. But I think it's just, I took a lot more out of the second half of the record, I think, on a personal note, and I think that's why I liked it so much more than the first half.
Yeah, I think I also I kind of forgot where, just because there's a lot of lyrics on this album.
There's a lot.
But there were a couple lines that I was actually like, this doesn't happen a lot, but I thought like, oh, I can kind of relate to that. And like
right?
with a vastly different life than Kendrick has or something I'll ever fully comprehend.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I could relate to anything was kind of, I guess, genius on his part.
Yeah, it kind of tells you that's a really good, two white guys that grew up in the suburbs in Texas that can somehow relate and connect to an album from an artist that has a completely different upbringing and background and has totally different experiences where, like I said, man, I think this album has made Kendrick more of a human. It has humanized him more than his previous work for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on To Pimp a Butterfly, he's literally announcing that, like, hey, I'm gonna be a savior. I'm gonna save the world, and
yeah.
damn, and he's kind of like reinforcing himself. And in this album, he's finally taking a step back. Like, I can't please everybody. I can't save the world. I gotta build my own.
Yeah.
I chose me. I'm sorry, which is an interesting.
God, I love that line.
It's an interesting line to leave on your last Top Dog Entertainment record, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, it is. I think I'm glad that you brought up like the Top Dog Entertainment stuff, because I think this is his last album with that production, with that label. And this is probably the most introspective and personal album that I think he's put out. And I think all of the messages that he's trying to communicate through his stream of consciousness, really, on a lot of this stuff, right? It feels like all these 5 albums that he's put out has been a sort of stream of consciousness. I think he's trying to learn who he is and better himself along the way.
Yeah.
And hopefully help a lot of, his fans that are trying to figure out what he's doing. And I think it's doing it through his faith, who clearly he's very, devout
Yeah,
Christian.
that's not a mystery.
That's not a mystery. I mean, he's literally wearing a crown of thorns on the album
cover. Well, that
cover.
might actually be a bit sacrilegious.
It is, which I love. I love when I see people who claim to be super devout Christians doing shit that I think is kind of super devout Christian.
Also the fact that, like, man, when I first saw this cover and I saw the name of this album, who wasn't like, okay, bud, all right, you want to come down from that high horse for a second, Mr.Morale?
Yes. Yeah, it's true. And I still haven't really figured out what the album title means. Do you have a theory?
Not really, man. I think the first half of the album's called Morale and the second is called Steppers.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just not good at, like, deciphering all the shit. And Kendrick's got a lot of shit going on this album.
He's so layered,
no
man.
one really knows about yet. But I don't think that's as important as these little personalized messages. Like the fact that the first song is 4 minutes and 16 seconds and the last song is 4 minutes and 17 seconds. I don't think that's a coincidence. They might have some fucking, like, Tool shit happening where you could play a couple of the songs on top of each other and they make a greater song or something.
Growth, man. Growth. Even if it's 1 second at a time, I think growth is just the theme throughout this whole record. And it seems to be the theme, whether he likes it or not, on all his albums. And I was actually talking about this today, where I really wish growth wasn't forced upon people so often. I wish that it was our choice to grow and to change.
Yeah, well, most of that stuff comes from big events that you weren't expecting. I'd say most,
usually traumatic events, right?
Yeah, most growth, maybe mostly traumatic, sure, but also, like, you go to a show and you see this band and that the band changes your life or whatever, or you see this movie or you read this book, or you, like, hear this bit of philosophy or something and that changes your life, and that's not something you were expecting really when you were getting into it. But also, yeah, trauma is a big part and it becomes what you are, and it's not all good or all bad. It's probably mostly bad development, but like Kendrick was saying on Father Time, there is that kind of forced manliness, that toxic masculinity that was brought upon him by his dad, was a part of why he's able to focus and drive so hard.
Why he wants to be one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for sure. I really liked this breakdown that I saw of someone did of this album, and I wish I had the name to credit them, but they were talking about how, you know, his last few albums have been this kind of journey, and I like when you think about music in this way, where they said that these records have let Kendrick overcome racial, generational, and personal trauma.
Yeah.
And just this unapologetic reveal about how Kendrick has always been well-intentioned with his music and his messages, and he might have let his savior complex kind of blind him a little bit to the fact that he had toxic behavior a little bit, that, you know, where he's trying to save everyone, or maybe it's kind of justifying his behavior because he's trying to get to this end game. It's almost like, you know, will you kill one person to save a million people? It's like, how do you justify being toxic and having this kind of savior complex? How do you justify that? Well, it's easy to justify it by saying, well, look at all the good that this savior complex is doing for people.
Yeah.
Look at all the good that my ego and destructive behavior, like infidelity, have done for my music and have done for my career and have done for other people to let me be honest about that. And I just really like, again, I think the concept of growth and of just being a flawed human is something that I really, really connected with. And I think the conclusion to all that, the one thing that has that really kind of put it all so succinctly, and it almost made me cry when I heard it, the line over and over and over again, is when he just keeps repeating, "I choose me. I'm sorry." And I think that's been something that I've had to kind of come to terms with a little bit, because, I mean, if I'm honest, like, choosing yourself, choosing your mental health, your success, your self-perception over what others can do for you, or putting other people before you, or putting other people's needs before your own, in my opinion, I think the healthier way to go is to focus on yourself first. Because if you're constantly trying to stay afloat and you keep passing other people the life vest, you're only fucking yourself over in the long run, you know? But it's like, once you're on the boat and you're safe and you're capable of helping people, then it is on you to make sure that you can help others around you get the fuck out of the water. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I'm seeing with Kendrick. I think Kendrick is out of the water and he's getting onto the boat. And I think he's starting to realize how he can help people now, where he wasn't capable to really help.
I mean, he had been, you know, he'd always been kind of anonymously donating to funds and organizations and setting up events.
Right.
But he has this family, and his priorities have vastly changed ever since he's had kids, I assume.
Yep.
And he just, like, I chose me, I'm sorry. I chose me and my family over. Maybe my theory is that this might be his last record in a long time. The first time I heard it, I thought it was a message saying, I'm done with the music industry. I thought it was saying, this is my last album.
Yeah.
Which it might not be that drastic, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was another 8 to 10 years before we got another full record from Kendrick.
Wow. Well, you know, as much as I support him in his journey of growth and learning, as a selfish music fan, I hope I don't have to wait 10 years for the next one. And before we get into our choice nugs, man, I really, there was 2 songs that almost made me cry listening to them. The Mirror was one that I mentioned.
Sure.
The other one was Mother I Sober. The one right before Mirror.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you want to get into Nar Nugs real quick.
Is that one?
That's one of my Nar Nugs.
Wow.
It's gotta be. It's an extremely, maybe his most intimate song, I'd say. His delivery is just so raw, and
it's so subdued.
It feels weak. It feels tired.
Yeah, it feels tired. It almost feels like
worn.
You're both laying in bed together, and it's the end of a long day, you know. And he's just kind of letting it all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's when a lot of, when me and Christina go to bed and it's late at night and we're both tired, I feel like that's when the most interesting conversation happens, to be honest. Your guard is let down a little bit, And I think once you feel exhausted, it's a lot easier to be honest. Because one of the things that exhausts people is not being able to say what they want to say, or feeling like they can't say what they want to say.
Yeah, and your guard is let down. Your thorns have kind of dulled a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Your thorns have been. It's almost like when a plant doesn't get enough flower and it starts to wilt, or I'm sorry, when a plant doesn't get enough water and it starts to wilt a little bit.
Yeah.
I've noticed that we got these sage flowers from. We went to this really cool mountain town in California here recently, and we bought some sage flowers that people were selling. They're beautiful and they smelled great. You know what I noticed though is when they started dying and we didn't give them enough water, they smelled the strongest. And I feel like it's kind of very natural for when you feel deprived or you feel exhausted and you're just trying to survive. Your true self really comes out a little bit. And I agree that Mother I Sober, definitely one of my honorable mentions, man. But there's almost too much to break down in that song to really explain why it made me want to cry when I listened to it.
I mean, it's yeah, he talks about a lot. He gets very personal. He talks about his mother and himself and kind of some trauma he went through.
Trauma that a lot of people around him have gone through. Where
right.
where you kind of, if you don't look into the facts, man, like where something like 1 in 4 black women get sexually assaulted before they're 18. Or God, what a common theme it is for rappers to have trauma that they're dealing with, and that's a lot of reasons why the cars and the clothes and the girls and the chains and all this stuff are kind of a way for them to deal with this trauma. I mean, there's a weird large number of rappers that have admitted to being sexually abused as kids.
Yeah, well, black males are pretty statistically high up there when it comes to like sexual abuse and rape.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing with people who have mental illnesses or disorders too. Anyone that people feel like are in a position of weakness or in a position where they need help get taken advantage of a lot. Like
right.
Kids with disorders, kids with autism get, unfortunately, like sexually abused. And it's kind of, it's just such a dark aspect of humanity. But it's crazy to think that like people like Denzel Curry have talked about being molested as a kid.
Right.
Lil Wayne talked about being raped when he was 11. Kevin Gates talked about how he was molested as a kid and it inspired him to rap. Common, we've mentioned his name a couple times already, like talked about his sexual abuse as a kid. And I think rap, I'm starting to understand, especially with certain artists, rap is a safe space for a lot of these guys to talk about their abuse and get it out in a way that other people might understand, or get out their anger in a way that other people will understand, and or maybe a way to process that trauma and putting pen to paper and saying some really heavy shit and putting it out there. And I really commend Kendrick for bringing that to light through a song.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was thinking about it a lot. We're like, should I go this far into it?
Right.
I
mean,
sure
talking about as honest and personal as saying like, his mom constantly asked him if his cousin ever sexually abused him.
Yeah.
And he had to keep saying no. He kept saying no, and it was true that he didn't. But his mom had experienced abuse, so she was extra worried that Kendrick would go through the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
That's really heavy, man, and it's dark, but it's beautiful to be able to, go from something like Mother I Sober to Mirror right afterwards, and again, I choose me, I'm sorry. I think that's a really powerful message, and I think you're right, man. Maybe we won't see a lot from Kendrick soon. But
I mean, he's not going to release an album next year. Like he already took a while.
He's not gonna be the King Gizzard
anyway.
of rappers.
Huh?
He's not gonna be the King Gizzard of rappers. You don't think?
No, I don't think he's gonna release 12 albums this year, though. I don't know.
We'll see.
We could. Who knows?
Man, yeah. Mother I. I mean, was there anything else you wanted to say about Mother I Sober? I feel like I kind of took over that conversation.
No, that was pretty much it. Is one of your choice nugs Mirror? Is that the next one?
No, man. Mirror was a very strong honorable mention. Great beat from Pharrell.
Wow. So neither of the songs that made you cry even got on your choice nugs.
No.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know, man. Like I said, there's a lot of personal connection to this record, and I was emotional throughout listening, on the second half of this album. But Mirror was definitely an honorable mention of mine. I love the beat from Pharrell. I think it's another really super heavy theme to the song, and a beautiful one, if I'll be honest. But my first choice nug, and it feels weird because I'm a little conflicted about it, is Silent Hill.
Really? Silent Hill? Hey, me too.
No shit, that was your second?
That's my second nug.
Wow, dude, I don't know why Kendrick got Kodak Black to be featured so prominently throughout this record, other than Kendrick's apparent hatred for cancel culture.
Well, he has a bone against cancel culture. He also says,
which I get. I agree with cancel culture being way too fucking prominent and way too sensitive. I get it.
Also, he says he sees himself in Kodak Black. He even said in a song that like something about like black culture support is great, but I see myself as more Kodak.
Yeah, I didn't.
Like
I don't know what exactly he meant by that.
I think it just meant that like Kodak is a very controversial figure.
Yes.
And he's been arrested for abuse, and he kind of has this laundry list of shit that he's done. And
even weird shit like with his mom that had come out in the last like year or so, where it seems like him and his mom might have a weird relationship where it kind of borderlines sexual at times or something. Like I remember seeing a lot of posts about that on Instagram, and I don't know, people might be reading a little too much into it, but like Kodak does have some dark shit that he's been accused of and has been convicted for. So it's an odd choice for Kendrick, but he is Kendrick, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah,
but how do you,
at the end of the day,
how do you mention R. Kelly and Cosby and their toxicity and what they've done as black men in black culture, and how they might have kind of set back black culture a little bit, and then you feature Kodak Black on not just one song but like several songs on this album,
like 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah.
I
guess he can't please everybody, quote unquote, with his choices, right?
You can't please everybody.
I can't please everybody.
Look, if he sees himself in Kodak Black, that's not really something someone can analyze.
And it's not for us to tell him he's wrong, right?
Thing.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not here to tell him he's wrong. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know.
But with that said, on Silent Hill, I love the beat.
I love the beat. I love the little pew, pew.
Love
pew,
it. I love that.
Pervades.
I'm a sucker for that broken speaker bass.
Yep.
I love that.
Push these bitches on me like, huh.
Which I could have sworn that was Kodak saying that.
I'm pretty sure it's Kendrick. And
it is Kendrick.
Who didn't laugh after hearing that? Because, like, all this shit you're going through, you just got back from Crown, which is a very piano, strings, backup vocals.
Very theatrical,
and then
yeah.
Push him bitch at me like, huh.
Like
Getting a little goofy again, but, we talk about real shit on this song, too.
Yeah, and Kendrick's never been scared of being goofy, either. He's done plenty of goofy shit throughout his albums. Right. I love that really heady, kind of reverby electric piano stuff that's throughout the whole beat.
Yep.
And I love how personal the lyrics are. Even Kodak gets personal with his shit, which I can appreciate. I've never been a fan of Kodak Black. I've heard a lot of his music. I've never really cared for it. But I'll say he had a decent feature on this.
I think it was I think you put, I don't know, you put anyone on a Kendrick song and it's gonna be like, well, of course they're not gonna be as good as Kendrick. It's gonna It looked a little, some parts of the verse were like a little ignorant to me.
Yes, for sure.
But like, I don't know.
Some things didn't work exactly with the beat or the cadence. Some things felt kind of forced a little bit.
But just like in some lines
were a little too long, so he was trying to have enough fit them in. Some lines were too short, where he literally went like, you know, a measure without saying anything. You know, but again, I like that the features on this album have allowed themselves to be a little less structured and have to conform to that kind of traditional hip hop songwriting, where even Kodak was like, yeah, well, I kind of had this line and I don't really have a line to follow it, so I'm just gonna wait 4 beats and then I'm gonna come back in, you know. And it's like, Kendrick does that shit, why can't Kodak do it? And I think he pulled it off. And Silent Hill was just, oh fuck, I just banged my goddamn desk. Silent Hill was definitely a standout for me, man. And I'm surprised that was one of your choice nugs, though, to be honest.
Yeah, it was just like, I don't know, it was just a nice kind of little levity. I like the beat. It's just kind of a nice bop.
Yeah.
And there were still some great beats. Some honorable mentions of mine are like Savior, Crown, Mirror.
Yes.
You know? But yeah.
Dude, the Savior interlude was 1,000 times better than the Rich Spirit interlude.
Yeah, I think that was Baby Keem.
Yeah,
right?
Baby Keem is going to be a fucking megastar. I'm calling it right now. If he's not already huge, which he's Kendrick's cousin. I had no idea. But this dude's going to be a fucking megastar.
Family Ties?
I saw the video. I didn't know Family Ties literally meant that they were family. Like, who fucking, I don't know.
Like, the single art was a picture of them in the same photo.
All right, well, fucking call me out on not doing my research.
I mean, at this point, it's like the only thing he's known for. Or that's what I thought.
Family Ties?
Oh, Baby Keem is Kendrick's cousin. And I think he made the beat to Family Ties. I think he's also a producer. I think he produced a couple of these songs or wrote a couple of these songs. I couldn't tell you which ones. I assume the ones he was on.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's amazing because I love the beats on Family Ties. And yeah, man, Savior interlude, big honorable mention for me. Auntie Diaries, big honorable mention for me. Like we said, Mother I Sober, Mirror, Crown, Count Me Out. I mean, honestly, the only song that didn't make an honorable mention, and it's not that I didn't like it, it just kind of wasn't anything really that special to me, was Savior the song.
You don't like it?
It's not that I didn't like it. I liked it. I like the beat. The background vocals I think are like super trippy and dreamy, and I like that a lot. But it was just the one that in my opinion is the weakest of the second half of the record, but that doesn't make it weak at all as a standalone song.
All right. Yeah.
But with that said, man, my other choice nug, and this was so easy for me to pick. This one was the first one that I was able to pick. Mr.Morale.
Mr.Morale. All right, yeah.
Talk about an intense fucking beat, dude.
Yeah, and it starts off with this just like heavy breathing and yeah.
Dude, I feel like I'm running away from like some future cop in rainy downtown Tokyo or some shit while listening to this song.
Yeah, for sure.
There's such cyberpunk vibes to this, intense, kind of thriller, scary vibes to it, and Kendrick is talking about some real shit on this track.
The delivery of "Them that get so heavy, get my chaining again so heavy." It's like kind of like, I don't know, like some dude in the distance, and you hear in your ears, you don't know where the voice is coming from, like something like that.
Yeah, man, I love, again, the artistry on Mr.Morale is just incredible. He's talking about past childhood traumas, how Baby Keem went from watching his mom be an addict to making $1 million as an adult, which Keem talks about on his interlude track.
Yeah.
How many people of color's experiences with trauma from their own people or from others taking advantage of them is a theme on Mr.Morale. It is just a heavy song. It's a scary song, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, man, I love those kind of fading in, and like kind of fading in and out. I think that was a cool touch.
It has almost like the energy to it has almost a Black Panther type of
a little bit, yeah,
rhythm to it. Yeah, I think it's a man. There was something about most of the beats on the second half of this record. It made me feel like I was listening to the soundtrack of some mystery thriller movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's just there was something very tense and nervous and anxious vibe throughout the whole record, and especially on Mr.Morale. I think that was just the peak of this anxiety, this this kind of tense looming feeling that you got. And
yeah, there's a lot of tension throughout this whole record. I thought the first half had a couple of those with Worldwide Steppers and
yes,
United in Grief.
United in Grief, exactly, for sure. I just feel, I think the combination of this tense anxiety, thriller, mystery type vibe that I got on the second album, paired with the lyrics of growth and the themes of learning and from your mistakes and growing as a person, I think is just something I really connected with. And with that said, man, what are you going to rate the second half of this album, and what are you going to rate the album as a whole?
I'm going to rate the second half like a 7.0.
So pretty, I mean, lower than the first half.
A little lower, but pretty close.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed some of the beats on the first half a little more, though I think the second half was a little more personal and a little more raw. The album as a whole, I'm probably going to rate around just like a 7.5. Just because like it's obviously it's Kendrick Lamar. It's a good record. I'm probably not going to come back to it too often. I do want to take some time and like
live with the album
for my
a little
next
bit.
Like listening of the record for sure. And I feel like the more time that goes on, the more I'll appreciate it. But this was a solid record. Probably not in my right now. It will probably be somewhere near the bottom if we were to rank all my favorite Kendrick albums. But,
sure.
I mean, even the bottom of a ranking is still better than most like music out there.
Yeah, probably Kendrick's lowest rated album is higher than, let's say, Lil Uzi Vert's highest rated album for you.
Literally like 90% of what the music industry has.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I get that, man, and I totally, I understand your rating for sure. I think I'm obviously going to be higher. I gave the first half of this record an 8.0. And again, restating that a lot of that had to do with just my respect for the artistry of what he was doing on the first half of the album.
Yeah.
The second half of this record, I'm giving a 9.0.
Wow. All right. I was wondering if it was going to get into the 9s.
Yes, I genuinely enjoyed the second half of this record much more. I think even these last 9 tracks as a standalone album, I think I would have loved on their own. Like we were saying, man, this didn't need to be a double record, but it is. And in terms of runtime, no need to make this into 2 albums. In terms of themes and content and what Kendrick was trying to do as an artist and trying to communicate as an artist, I think it did need to be a double record. I love the beats a lot more on the second half. Like I said, I thought they were like mystery thriller beats. I thought they were really fun. I think, what I liked a lot about the beats that he chose for the second half of the record is it kind of made me think that, it made me think of a mystery or a thriller or something like that. And honestly, like, life is a mystery and life is scary. Life is kind of thrilling.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know what to expect. And I feel a lot of that in this music where you didn't know what to expect. It's not like one track led you into the next track seamlessly. It's like you really didn't know what was going to happen. And I think it's the same thing with the theme of growth, where you don't know when you're going to be forced to have to grow, and you don't know when something's going to surprise you and catch you off guard. And I think I that's what I took away from this album, where it's like every track it caught me off guard, and I really love that, man. And it to me it's crazy the skill that Kendrick has to be so personal and real and tell a story, and it's clear and it makes sense and the message is there. I have a lot of appreciation for this record as a whole, and especially the second half of the record. So if I'm going to take My first rating of the first 9 songs, which was 8.0, and the last 9 songs is 9.0. I'm giving this an 8.5. Hard, solid record. Really love this, and I do honestly think the second half made up for the first half, for me.
Wow, I've heard the opposite. I've heard people like the first half a little more than the second half, but
that's interesting.
It's got to be. It's, the song just came out. We're just listening to it.
Yeah.
But what are, like, real quick, because we've already talked about the songs, what are your 2, like, gold 2 choice nugs for the whole record?
It's gonna have to be N95 and Mr.Morale.
N95 and Mr.Morale.
Yeah.
Yeah, N95 had the music video. It's a great, just not trap song, traditional.
It's weird, it's almost like a drill beat, or like man, what's the UK one? Is it drill?
It's drill.
Okay. Yeah, it has a very grimy drill beat. N95. I like how pissed off he is on N95.
Right.
And then with Mr.Morale, it's almost like the opposite, where he's not exactly mad, but it's really intense. And it's talking about, in N95, he's talking about the world, shit that the world has been dealing with, not just him. And I think in Mr.Morale, he's talking about his personal experiences and the experiences of his people, which I think are 2 very opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of, like, how personal you want to get, how real you want to get. And I appreciate both for what they are. But, like, what are yours, man? Like, what are your 2 standouts?
My ultimate ones are going to be Mother I Sober. I think it's very raw, very emotional. I like the music. I like how his delivery grows in intensity. And my other nug is going to be United in Grief, which is the first song.
Wow.
I like how anxious and intense it is. And
it's fucking stressful.
It's stressful. He's
stressful.
Aggressive. That blasted, like, super compressed drum beat comes in, which I love.
Yeah.
And it just kind of fades in and out, and then strings. I think it was a great song, great way to start the record.
Yeah, we haven't, I don't know if we said it enough, but the producers on this record absolutely fucking killed it. And the songs that Kendrick chose for each track couldn't be more perfect for each track.
Right.
So, buddies, if you have not listened to this album, I implore you to check it out. I think especially if you're a fan of hip hop, if you're a fan of very personal music and very emotional music and vulnerable music, I think Kendrick's gonna really surprise you on this one.
I think if you are into music, you've listened to this record. If you're not into music and you want to get into music, listen to Good Kid, Mad City.
Yes.
And then Damn, and maybe listen to this one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're, again, like, if we're talking about, if you're into artistry, if you just want to listen to something that is just artistry, whether you're going to understand the music or not, you can listen to this album, Mr.Morale and the Big Steppers, and you can listen to Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah.
If we're talking about pure artistry. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, buddies. Leave us a comment, man. Let us know what you guys thought of these 9 songs. Let us know what you guys thought of the album as a whole, man. Did you guys like the first half more than the second? Obviously, me and Brett were coming from 2 different perspectives, man. And we'd love to hear y'all's perspective and understand what you liked and disliked about this record. And let us know what albums you guys think we should be listening to and what you'd like to see us review. We've gotten a bunch of really cool recommendations. We're actually going to have a whole episode of just listener suggested albums that we're going to talk about and review and share our thoughts about them. And I'm really excited to do that with you, dude.
Yeah, some real quick shorties, 3 or 4 albums, just depending.
Yeah.
Kind of just boom, 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 boom.
And it's just our way of thanking you guys for watching our show, listening to our show, and giving us recommendations, man. As fans of music, nothing excites me more than hearing some new music I've never heard of, and I love it. And honestly, I like talking shit too, so if I hate it, I'm just as excited to talk about it.
We don't do that enough.
We don't hate on shit enough. That's true. That's true. But I'm honestly excited to hear what you think of what we're going to talk about on the next episode, my dude, because we are talking...
Well, why would that be?
We're going to go way off base here. We have literally never talked about a country music album on our show. We have something like 90 episodes total that we've done of this show. And I think it's about goddamn time we talk about some really good country music. And my personal favorite, I'm not a big country guy, my personal favorite country music artist, and Mr. Sturgill Simpson. We're going to talk about his album, Meta Modern Sounds of Country Music.
About a year and a half ago or a year ago, Lucas sent me a playlist of 12 or 15 songs.
Choice Sturgill Nugs.
Choice Sturgill Nugs, and I've half listened to it a couple times.
You son of a bitch.
It's good stuff.
It's good
I'm
stuff,
just never
man.
in the mood for
I totally
country.
get it. I totally get it. You don't drink enough whiskey. Like I'm drinking right now, you're not drinking enough whiskey, my dude. So
maybe we'll drink some damn whiskey.
Buy some cheap ass whiskey and listen to
some moonshine.
Everyone who's listening, if you are 21 or above, buy some cheap ass whiskey and go listen to Sturgill Simpson's Meta Modern Sounds of Country Music. I think you might find something that you connect with it in it. So that's what we're talking about in the next episode. Until then, find us on Instagram at EBPcast. Me and Brett are also on Instagram. I'm there at Jean-Luc Guitard. Brett is Brett Hanrahan on there. You obviously, if you find our YouTube channel, you're watching us right now, but look up Earbuds Podcast on YouTube. You will find us. We're on every podcast streaming platform that you can find. Look for us on there. Tell your friends about us. Leave us a comment. Follow us, man, because we are coming out with a new episode every single week, if not 2 or 3 episodes every single week. So, yeah, I know.
We don't even get paid.
We're not even getting paid for this fucking shit yet. Yeah, it's bullshit.
If anyone wants to make our Patreon for us and start sending us money, that'd be great.
If you want to start a fan club, we are here for it, and we'll be the presidents if you need us to.
You will need to pay for the rights.
Yes.
For our likenesses.
I'm a whore, man. I want to be paid for everything I do.
It's gotta be. You gotta get some monetization from it, or else it's really not worth the time.
If we're not monetizing, what are we doing?
What the fuck are we doing?
What the fuck are we doing? Brett, what would you rate this episode?
You know, I'm gonna rate this album a fucking 9 out of 10, baby.
Oh, you're not even going for a joke on that one. That was an honest rating.
I couldn't think of one, baby. It always comes too quick.
I'm gonna rate this a 9 out of 10 as well. I really enjoyed this album and really enjoyed talking about it with you, man.
Yeah, man. I feel like it got pretty personal.
It got pretty personal. You know, there's not a lot of albums that get this out of us. You know, a lot of times we're just superficial and shallow.
Yeah, we're very like formal.
Yeah, I mean, we almost wore suit and tie on this one, but we're like, you know what? Let's loosen up a little bit.
Wait, maybe for the award show.
Yeah, well, which, by the way, buddies, if you haven't listened to our award show, we did that last year, so go check that out.
I'm already so excited for this.
I can't wait. This album is gonna win like every category.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. But until next week, buddies, thank you so much for listening. Tell your friends about us. Leave us a comment. Leave us a like. Give us a subscribe. Click that little fucking bell or whatever. And let us know what you guys want us to talk about, man, because we are here for you. Brett, this was good.
Lucas, this was good.
Let me open up the camera app real quick. And 3, 2, 1. Bye, buddies.
Bye, buddies.
Salute.